There is this Dominion case, but obviously we wanted to mostly talk about the Chauvin case. And Jody, you said something just, you were our cub reporter.
There's one of the witnesses that called in to 911. Oh, he's crying. God bless him.
It was the MMA fighter, I believe.
Yeah, they played his tape of the 911 where they actually put him up to a supervisor. So I guess normally when you call in when the murder's happening, they bump you up to somebody, which makes no sense. But anyway, he was recorded as saying he's trying to kill a guy that wasn't resisting arrest.
Well, can I just say, I think that's the main argument. We'll ask Jill, Jody, but we saw it on tape. The guy was handcuffed and on the ground. He was clearly not resisting arrest. And Chauvin wouldn't even get off him after he wasn't moving and had no pulse. And it is just so egregious. And by the way, this just, Jody, we mentioned this earlier, but he happened to be a former wrestler who had been trained in mixed martial arts. And he was asked about his knowledge of chokeholds. And this guy repeatedly yelled for Chauvin to relieve pressure from Floyd's neck. He said he recognized from his mixed martial arts training that Chauvin was using a blood choke on Floyd, which he said could result in death by cutting off circulation. When he said that to Chauvin, he said Chauvin looked up at him. And he said he could barely move when he was trying to get air. He said he saw Floyd's eyes rolling into the back of his head, blood coming out of his nose. He watched Floyd slowly fade away like a fish in a bag. He said Floyd finally didn't have any life in him anymore. Another officer that was there, told bystanders, "This is what drugs do to you." Williams said that pissed me off more because that wasn't the case.
Right.
He clearly did not die of a drug overdose. Yeah. Jody.
Williams is an amazing witness. First off, he's honest. Secondly, he's emotionally distraught. Yeah. And you can see it. He literally started crying. And they're trying to say, the defense is trying to get on him being a march. Like, what does it matter other than the fact that he knows what that looks like? What does it matter? Floyd was already handcuffed. How could he have been a threat to anybody there?
Mm-hmm. And the 911 dispatcher, she said she initially thought the camera was frozen because the scene hasn't changed. It is hard when you watch it, Jody. It is hard to believe a human being, just forget color of skin, would do that to another human being. And she said when was told the video hadn't frozen, she said she had a gut instinct something was wrong and called a police sergeant, right? And she's the one that said, "I don't care if you call me a snitch. There's something wrong here." He's right. Okay. And so the defense said they'll provide evidence to show Floyd died of cardiac arrhythmia, hypertension, and coronary disease. Are you kidding me? Ingestion of drugs and the adrenaline in his body. I mean,
why
really?
do you think the adrenaline was in his body? He was under stress.
Yes.
Right,
being choked to death. Prosecution said Floyd did not die of a drug overdose. He said he had fentanyl in his system, but had developed a tolerance to it after struggling with opioid addiction for years, as millions of Americans have. Mm-hmm. And also, as we said earlier, Jody, he said that's not someone who died of an opioid overdose. They're not screaming for their lives. They're not calling for their mothers. They're not begging, please, I can't breathe. That's not what an opioid overdose looks like.
And you wouldn't have a big adrenaline rush.
Right. And they said, Chauvin was a 19-year police veteran who'd been trained multiple times in CPR. Despite that, Chauvin did not let up or attempt to help Floyd. Blackwell said Chauvin also stopped others who tried to help, including a member of the Minneapolis Fire Department, who he threatened to mace. Mm-hmm. Okay. They say a use of force expert will say Chauvin used lethal force against Floyd, who, as you just says, was defenseless, who was handcuffed, who was not resisting. He said Chauvin does not let up. He does not get up, even after he's told twice that Floyd has no pulse and after paramedics arrive with a gurney. Mm-hmm. I mean...
Well, Jill Weinbanks and her hashtag sisters-in-law, they were talking about this last weekend, and I forget who suggested it. It might have been Joyce. That they should just stop the court and be in dead silence for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, because watching it is bad enough, but just sitting silently for that long... tells you how long that is.
Yeah, imagine it with someone's knee on your neck, when you can't breathe. I mean, it's Representative Karen Bass on the Derek Chauvin trial.
Well, frankly, the opening statements, especially from the prosecution, it was just difficult to hear. And it was very difficult to see that tape again. And frankly, I saw parts of the tape that I don't remember seeing before. And to see his knee on his neck long after he was conscious, and he just kept it there. It just seems so cruel. And to me, it's just very hard for me to see that and not believe that he was really just punishing George Floyd.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It just, the hand in the pocket, Jody's what killed me. Just, he's
and
waiting for his
smug
Subway
look.
sandwich order. Just, I mean.
And looking up at the girl that was brave enough to take that video where he's right there, that 17-year-old girl. And he's just looking at her so smug, like, yeah, I'm going to get away with this.
What are these defense? Oh, they're scared of the crowd. Oh, really? Like, because you happen to be murdering someone and the crowd was concerned? Like, and you're armed and they aren't armed and you're afraid of the crowd?
They were asking him to stop so that George Floyd didn't die.
Yeah,
right.
That's all they were doing.
Karen Bass.
I feel the pressure of everything that is happening with this trial on my shoulders, because we have got to deliver for the American people. There has got to be hope that we can actually transform policing. And if there was ever a case that you can just not argue, it is this one. This trial has got to come out the right way, and we have to deliver. I believe that we will get a bill on the president's desk. I know the White House and the president absolutely wants us to move forward, and we have to deliver.
Michael in Oakland, our pro bono lawyer. Hey, Michael.
The way that the defense is trying to gaslight the jury is they actually said, that Chauvin's knee was not on George Floyd's neck, but rather on his shoulder blade and on his arm. Okay.
That would not cause you to say, I can't breathe. How many times was it? Do we know? I forget how many times he said, I can't breathe.
It's still good.
It also would cause anyone who's watching the video not to believe with their own eyes. And the theoretically, the way that they can at least try this argument is, and don't get me wrong here, but there was no visible trauma to the neck tissues when the medical exam was done. But this was positional asphyxia, so it didn't really matter how much pressure. It didn't take much in that position. And because he was prone and face down, his diaphragm couldn't function. This is what Cyril Wecht has said.
Yeah.
And he's sort of the main medical examiner. But maybe the tricky little key thing here will be that in order to make the argument that is to say, in order to make a case that the knee was not on the neck, they're probably going to have to put Chauvin or someone to testify that was what was taking place, because otherwise it's just not the way it looks.
Well, Michael, I was going to say, I'm not obviously a lawyer, but Glenn Kirshner, who's been a federal prosecutor for how many years, said, I've never seen such damning video evidence. I mean, in that case, do you need to be a lawyer to go, wow, that's really bad, that 9 minutes of tape?
Well, yeah, and quite frankly, the other thing, the takeaway from what happened yesterday is right now the defense is being outclassed. The prosecution is really and partially it's because they just have better facts.
Yeah,
can only be so good a lawyer when the facts are that bad.
Yeah,
the idea that these cops, quote, felt threatened by this sort of sparse group of people that were doing nothing but saying, you're killing this guy, check his pulse, check his breathing, that was a threat, and that somehow justifies this behavior.
Yeah,
I don't think that got them anywhere.
Well, when the defense said, Derek Chauvin was doing exactly what he was trained to do, I'm like, well, then they better, change the training, because right, really? Yeah.
No, the Minneapolis police apparently does train to use that knee neck thing, but on occasion that they do train to use that, but they train them never to do it when someone's already under control, so to speak.
Yeah.
The problem that they have, this guy was not. Theoretically, you can give the benefit of the doubt. I'm just saying theoretically, up to a point, you can give the benefit of the doubt to the cops that they had to get him out of the car and they got him on the ground, they had him in handcuffs. But from that point forward, from at least halfway through that encounter, there is no need for that knee to be anywhere near where it is.
Yeah.
And when he's being told repeatedly by that
and
guy
I get, I
actually,
again, I have a good friend that's a cop. Like, to some degree, I get benefit of the doubt, and it's a dangerous job. And but I'm not anti-cop, Michael, but this is so far beyond that, beyond the bounds of even human decency. Thank you for your call, honey. I appreciate it.